Good morning. Excited for the first day of pads here. Looking to keep improving on where we've started from the offseason into the training camp portion. Now we actually get to do some real football. We get to fit up and thud and see guys come off the ball and work on block combinations and playing off combinations and linebackers fitting and all the things that you want to see in pads. So today should be a fun day, and I'm looking forward to it. Other than that, let you guys have at it.
You have pass rush one-on-ones today?
Yeah, 37-on-7.
How valuable is that?
It's valuable in the sense that it's an opportunity for guys to work on their craft. I don't know that it necessarily is a drill that's telling of a guy's ability to pass protect or not. It's just it's a technique drill. It's a little bit skewed defensively on that regard. So it's good. It's the right drill for technique, but it's a drill.
How much offensive line says that obviously they need the pads on in order to show what they've got, because the defense always seems to have an advantage with the first few days of camp. What do you need to see out of that group today in terms of cohesion and getting the job done?
Yeah, just what you said. Cohesion's a big part of it. How we come off the ball, how we work in combination together with all the different combination blocks that happen up front. Just see what those actually get to look like when we can really come off the ball the right way. You know, anytime you're not in pads, you're mindful of that banging back and forth. So we get to go now. The governors are off, and we can come off the football, and all those things are a part of the process, but excited to be able to see it happen for real finally.
Brian, you guys haven't been here all that long, obviously, but three straight years where first-round picks really have contributed very little to the team. How much does that kind of put you guys now at a bit of a disadvantage because of what happened?
Yeah, hard to comment on what and why things happened before, and what decisions were made at those moments. But at the end of the day, we're trying to continue to add good players so we can have a chance to be more competitive and win more football games. So feel good about the guys we've added since we've been here, and those guys have contributed for us and will continue to. I'm excited about our first round pick this year, which is good.
Brian, what have you told the guys about extracurricular things after the play? When you pull pads, for the last year was a problem with Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
Have you told the guys anything? Don't do it. Stay away from it. What's been the message?
Same message as it was last year, in the sense that it's a penalty first and foremost. There's nothing worse than watching guys swing at each other with helmets on. You're not accomplishing anything, and that. We want to protect each other, so those things aren't acceptable. We don't tolerate it. Tempers flare in training camp. I'm not naive. This isn't my first training camp. I get how it happens, but we don't want that, and I've expressed that pretty straightforwardly to our team. And so again, if you get some pushing and shoving and all that happens, but we don't want any fights. That's not football.
How does your approach with Cameron Ward this year differ from the way you did things last year?
I don't know. That'd be hard to say. I mean, we still teach the offense. We still go about our process pretty similarly from a schematic and system standpoint, I think. I've always coached quarterbacks a very particular way, and I think Bo does it the same way I do it, along with Nick. We've got a pretty, I think, consistent approach to how we coach the position. So hard to say there's a lot of differences that I could point out at the moment, but yeah, there's certainly things that cater to the personality, that cater to the type of player, depending on the differences. So that's something that does come up. But anything that jumps out, I'd have to think a little harder on that one for you, TD.
You had mentioned the daily development for Cameron Ward. What's the daily development like for you? Just as a quarterback coach, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know obviously you're the head coach, but I mean, just
are you talking about quarterback play?
Yeah, for you, daily development, working with Cam Ward. Like, what are some of the things that are different now as opposed to when we first got out here?
Well, we're just the volume of what we're seeing. So the difference between like his spring is the install process is a little slower. It's kind of one install a day, and then you have days in between, and now you come to training camp and you rip off like 9 straight installs. So every day there's more coming. There's more looks from the defense, and it's coming at a more rapid pace, and so you have to pick it up. It's now all being condensed, and we're sort of in a race against every other team in the league to get all of our stuff down. And the biggest thing to me is just the operation versus our defense, with the amount of pressures we see, the handling of the protections. So again, the third downs are a big part of it. That process every day is every look, every defensive pressure, every time we get a chance to coach off those things is a huge part of the development. We can't get enough of it.
With more coming for Cam, as you were saying, how has he maybe responded to that uptick?
Fantastic. He's really done a nice job on the mental side of things. A lot of it's because he works really hard at it. You know, there's a lot of effort put in on his part to know what to do, to know how to do it. I think that you start to see where things he's comfortable with. So there's some things that he likes better than others, like every quarterback. And so you're starting to get a better feel for me on my end on what he likes, what he feels comfortable with, and where are some things that we got to keep working on so he feels like he's at the right place when we go play in September. So we got a lot of work ahead still.
See the inside linebackers get Cam a few times with the interceptions. Is that any concerns of like I guess a blind spot, or do you tie any of that together? Or?
No, certainly things you got to correct and coach off of. You know, one of the minor things that shows up sometimes is quarterbacks generally have a lot of confidence in trying to throw the ball over people, and that's a thing in the NFL you don't get away with very often. And so just you learn that. You know, you learn that these guys get enough depth. They're where they're supposed to be. It's hard to throw the ball over people, and he's had 2 or 3 of those to Cody. And then the one in the stadium was just a really nice – Cam got moved off his spot in the pocket, so he's a little bit late to it. And then James made a great break on the ball. That one was just a really good play by James. But those are the things you coach and you keep working on, and you keep showing where the alternative throw could have been. And he gets it every time we go through it. So it's a good process.
Waiting on Lloyd, how's Levin done, and are you working some other guys in there?
Yeah, Corey's done a really nice job. You know, I've kind of praised Corey previously, but he's stepped up. He's done a good job managing the line, making the calls, having guys on the same page. I've been really happy with what Corey's done. You see his veteranness, the amount of football he's been around, it shows up. So it's been super helpful to keep progressing for us up front. He's done a really, really good job there. You know, Ruppich has gotten some snaps at center. Brewer snaps at center. You know, Jackson Slater could at some point. He hasn't really done much of that at the moment. But we're rotating guys back through there. Sam Mustipher gets a little bit of work in there as well at center. So we got some guys rolling. They're doing a good job, and we'll find out a little bit more when we get the pads today. But I think Corey's been very good for us.
Atlanta concedes that ladder work is not his strength.
Sure.
When a guy's not good on the ladder, how much does that translate to his actual footwork, and what degree is that a concern?
Not a lot. You know, some guys got really great feet in the ladder. It's a drill, you know, and it's something you can get better at. You can improve your ladder ability. But it doesn't show up. I mean, he can still get out of the top of his routes. He can still make a cut at the top of the break, and it doesn't show up in that. Some guys, the bigger guys, sometimes have a tougher time with the ladders, the longer legs, but that doesn't really I don't see it translate into his route running.
You're smiling. He takes grief for it. It's kind of a don't think.
Sure. Yeah.
How much more with the pads going on? How much more can you see and I guess evaluate the one-on-one matchups between the receivers and the DBs, like press coverage drills?
That's a big part too. It's very similar to the one-on-one pass rush. It's a drill. It's not the end-all, be-all for what they're doing, but it is a chance for those guys just to feel, especially our young players, what press coverage feels like. You know, we don't get to work a ton versus press in the off-season because of the rules, and then even when you do, it's the physicality is not the same when you got pads on, and so it's a good drill to work. It's good for your technique, to work your releases, all those stuff. It's great. We'll do it today. It's just part of the process of getting guys ready to go play football on the perimeter, and the corners too. The corners need the same work that our receivers work. It goes both ways.
Brian, going back to James Williams, where have you seen him take steps? Obviously, he takes a big from the mental side.
Yeah, the mental side's probably been his biggest improvement, and the mental side of knowing what to do, but then being able to diagnose and do it. That's been the jump he's made the most. Is he's much more comfortable in where his eyes are supposed to be, reacting to whatever blocking combinations he's seeing, gap plays, zone plays, being where he's supposed to be in the fit, And then doing a much better job in pass coverage, too, just understanding where to be on the field in zone and where his eyes are supposed to be in man. His improvement has been noticeable, and I'm excited to see that continue.
There's a reason why we talk when young quarterbacks join teams that aren't very good and are drafting high about them potentially sitting, waiting, developing. When you take the guy first overall, it's not really much of a question. But what is it about Cam that makes you confident if things get ugly, if this situation is really rough for him in the season, that his development won't be stunted, he'll be able to handle it anyways?
Yeah, playing quarterback in the NFL, I don't think there's any substitutes of playing quarterback. There's so many things they learn when they play the game that you can't necessarily simulate and teach. That part of being in the fire is what helps quarterbacks get better faster. So I've always been a big believer in guys playing. That's how they improve. And so his demeanor gives me a ton of confidence that he can handle a rough spot or two. Because, look, it's the reality of quarterback play in the league and being a young player. Like, there's going to be ups and downs. It happens. But you see his demeanor, his heart rate never changes. He doesn't flinch when it comes to a mistake or two, and he just goes right back and does it again. And I think that's the makeup you have to have as an NFL quarterback, because every quarterback in the league throws interceptions, every quarterback in the league gets sacked, every quarterback in the league loses games, and so you have to battle through those moments, and the mindset and the makeup of the person is really what separates guys and being able to handle those things. So Cam has shown thus far that he's up to that task, and there's still things to come and still things he's going to have to deal with, but pleased with his ability to handle it so far.
I know there's certain ways that Traylon could still end up on the roster at some point, but at this point, is it likely that his tenure is probably over?
Hard to say at this point. Maybe we waived him injured, and if he doesn't get claimed, he reverts back to IR, and he's in the normal IR process. So at this moment, don't really have much more to add to it as far as conjecture goes.
After the whole offseason of the penalty emphasis and everything, is there at least a tiny bit of symbolism that you get to the stadium, your defensive line jumps off sides on the first play of defensive line period, they jump off sides, I think, on the first play of the team?
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Now in a drill, I get it, a drill, but yeah, I don't want to see it in a team period. Certainly, that's one of the things that we're trying to do a better job of. Those guys are trying to get off the ball too and time up the cadence. That's part of it. But yeah, certainly don't want to see free 5 yards for an offense, and don't want to see our offense take away 5 yards for us either in the same vein. So had a penalty or two at the stadium. You're going to have penalties, but it's the ones that I think that we can control, that we got to do a better job of. So yeah, don't want to see it, and we address it and correct it, and we keep moving forward with it.
First day with pads, what's it like to finally get that physical?
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. The game is just different than when we're in jerseys and helmets, so it's a good feeling. It's real football. Definitely a huge adjustment, but it feels good to be back.
Coach Callahan used the word cohesion, really looking for cohesion up front. Can you start to see that build even more?
Yeah, I think it's still early. That'll build slowly. I think it doesn't just happen, don't just show up and we're a cohesive unit. That's going to take a lot of reps in camp, and this is only day one in pads, so that's going to take some time, and through the preseason and into the first few weeks.
Peter, in terms of combo blocks, pass blocking, all that, how much does it have to ramp up when you have the pads on and things become a little bit more live?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of cohesion stuff is kind of mental, honestly, just being on the same page. The physicality, I think we all just kind of bring individually, and that becomes one as a unit. But we've already been kind of building, I think, mentally, through the past 2 days and walkthroughs and jog-throughs and stuff. But of course, there's always extra intensity, when we get into this phase.
You and JC really kind of breezed through the one-on-one. How big for you two to start very strongly in those matchups?
Yeah, that's great stuff, and it took some lumps too in the live third down stuff. So, there's ups and downs, and it's just learning and trying to get better. So that happens. It's part of the game. You can't get too high when you have great reps. Can't get too low when you have low reps. It's still July 29th. And we've got a long way to go. So it's just continuing to build and get better, and not overreacting to a good or a bad rep right now.
Did you feel like you had good reps in the one-on-one?
Yeah, I feel like I had some good ones. But I mean, there's always going to be stuff to learn from, even the good ones. There's always technical stuff. There's always, okay, well, I did that now, then what can I do that, in a future day, versus the same rusher. So, yeah, I think there's ups and downs there. So there's still learning, still growing from those. But yeah, happy with some of those reps for sure.
When you talk about going into reps and, going against guys like Simmons and Sweat out here, how much can you maybe just learn from what happened on a play and maybe talk it out in between periods and things like that versus how much you have to watch the film to really see what happened?
Yeah, there's only so much you can do out here, I think, just because there's a ton to see. Even the coaches who are behind watching, they can only see so much of the line, let alone the guys actually in the play. So me and Dan will occasionally talk about some things that happen and try to adjust on the fly, but until we go in and watch the tape, it's really hard to adjust to that.
How do you think maybe your strength, technique, hand placement, all that's maybe improved since you first came in the league, and how's that maybe show up out here?
Yeah, I'm definitely a lot more comfortable with it. I feel like I've really kind of settled in terms of just sets and hands. Credit to Coach Bill for his teaching and his technique. I think that's helped a lot. But I feel like there's always tons of improvements to make there. You can't be complacent with that stuff. And, like I said, I took a few lumps. So, learning from that and trying to be more consistent with that.
His year 2 with him, knowing more about what to expect, how much did that help you, some of the returning guys?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely helps a lot. We know what to expect in terms of Indy, his techniques. We're not really learning a lot of new stuff, so it's just more like mastering the stuff we know. And I think that's a big advantage for us compared to last year where we were still adjusting, still learning.
Your third tackle in 3 years. Dan talked about going through a turnstile of guards when he was with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Are you guys looking at each other like we're a match for a while?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you always want consistency in terms of who you're playing next to. And I think I really had that great last year at JC. I think we both played every snap. But Dan's been a guy who's, consistently been out there for his career. And I feel like for the most part I have too. And I think being together and just being on the field together for as long as possible is really going to help us build a relationship and become a really good duo.
What kind of things does Corey bring to the table of filling in at center?
Yeah, Corey's a true pro. He's mentally on top of his stuff. Got a great demeanor as a center, very calm. Not too high, not too low. And he's a vet. He's seen a lot too. Maybe he hasn't started as many games as some guys, but he's been in the league for a while. Knows a lot, has seen a lot. Has done a great job getting us on the same page.
Bernard brings a lot of pressure, obviously, at practice from everywhere, and on a day where the pads go on for the first time, it seems like it gets amped up even more, too.
Yeah.
Just how helpful is that to kind of set that tone as you guys continue into training camp?
Yeah, this feels like the most I've ever seen, in terms of pressure packages and stuff like that. It's a lot. It's been intense mentally. But then you add the pads and you add full speed, and it only gets harder. So, it's been a tough go, and we're still trying to learn and grow and adjust to that.
You're obviously still learning Cam too, but what are some of the things early on that kind of you're going to get from him on a consistent basis?
Yeah, I know we have a competitor, and we know we have a guy who's going to be the same guy every day, and that's all you can really ask from a rookie and a quarterback. Being a rookie is tough, let alone being a rookie quarterback, and it doesn't matter if you're 1 overall or wherever. It's tough, and he brings that same energy and he brings that same confidence every day, which I think is all you can really ask from a rookie right now, and it's awesome, and appreciate just having that kind of energy around.
Change out there when you put the pads on?
Obviously the physicality changes, and plus it was a great first day. Everyone was excited to get the pads on before practice. Everyone's talking trash, hopping around, hooping and hollering, but it's fun when the pads come on. It's the next step to as real as ball as you can get, and so it's fun to get out there, start getting some contact, and just competing.
What are those first hits kind of remind you of and put you in the headspace when you're at this?
Just back in, because we haven't put on the pads since, at least for me, it was middle of January, and so it's been a minute, and so once you get those pads on, get those first couple hits out of the way, it's just it's a reminder, and it feels good, it feels good. Yeah, absolutely. It all starts with, and this is what I believe, it starts with the D-line. And, in the first run period we started with on 907, them dudes were coming off the ball, getting in the backfield, causing disruption. And, we all just fed off that. And then from the rest practice on, offense started battling back. And, there's moments there, because it was our first long practice of the year. And so there was moments where there was lapse in focus, if you will. But, you're able to bounce back, get everyone regrouped and refocus, and just, it's on to the next play and just competing, like I've said, a dozen times.
I think you, James, and Otis are all former safeties in
Yep.
transition. But what is it about making that move that seems to be such a natural fit?
I don't know, just being a safety, obviously, you're as you're coming up, you're a bigger athletic guy, not just, a smaller DB. And so, at least for me and James, in our cases, we're bigger guys. James is a real big guy. He's like almost 6'5", But, it helps in the box as far as the pass game and just the fluidity to the game, Every year since I've been in the league, it feels like the game's getting faster, more spread out, going downfield more, And so, I think having that safety background, being able to play in the pass game just helps.
With that size, are you a little surprised that he was safety not too long ago?
You talking about me?
No,
Oh, yeah, him? Yeah, 2 years ago, right? Yeah. I mean, I'd look at safety and be like, who's that guy?
Something about the vision you have, though, as well. I mean, when you're back there safety, you see the whole thing.
Yep.
And so you have a lot of experience watching the whole thing develop, I guess.
Yeah, you just get it from a different perspective. But then again, when you move into the box, there's that adjustment of, everything happens very fast. Everything's on you right now, And so, whereas in safety, when you're 12 yards back, you can see that play develop. If it's a run, you can see the double develop or whatever it is and then come down. But when you're in the box at 5 yards, 4 yards, whatever it is, those guys can get on you quick. Yeah.
Teammates you're playing with this defense as a whole early. Are there any similarities you can point out to what you saw last year in Denver? I'm curious if there's, not even schematically, but just style-wise, team-wise, are there things that you notice that are similar to that team?
I mean, there's always going to be some similarities. There's a lot of energy, which there was some energy last year. But I would say the energy here and what's up, baby? The energy here is just, it's at another level, and everyone's hungry. Everyone wants to make plays. Everyone wants to eat. And one of the biggest things I'm proud of is everyone wants to make plays for each other, for the next teammate.
Turnovers often eluded this team last year. How good is this? The first day of pads, I think you guys got your hands on 4 different losses.
Yeah, and a forced fumble. Are you including that one or no? Yeah. I didn't keep count, but no, it's good. And a main focus on our mind as defense is, we're trying to get the ball. It's not always just about, there's times you're just going to tackle them, that's going to be a lot of the time, but, our main focus is getting the ball back to our offense and, turnovers, and it's just things I've looked at over the years is, you look at a turnover margin in a game, if you're in that plus, the odds are in your favor to win that game, and so the bigger that margin is, you're going to win more games.
Okay, who got the tip on the deflected? Oh, was that Sweat?
Was it Sweat?
Yeah. How much of that a point of emphasis and how much that helped linebackers when those big
a lot. Getting their hands up?
Yeah.
That's big. Getting a tip pick, it just, sometimes it just comes right to you. It's the best, and but that's a huge disruption. And whether it's a tip, whether it's just you caught it clean, or it doesn't matter what it is, just a turnover in general is just huge. It flips the momentum.
You come from a team that's been in the playoffs like the Broncos were last year and a winning culture. How do you transplant that to a new environment where it hasn't been in a while?
Yeah, just I guess through just using my experience to talk to these guys about my knowledge and just my experiences and all that stuff, but also just helping the guys understand, it's not, you can't just be focusing just on the playoffs down the road. We got to focus on the now. And everything we're doing now and building as a team on defense, special teams, offense, and as a whole collective unit, everything we're doing now and taking it day by day will lead to success down the road. You know what I mean? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.